Lord Ahmad today tweeted that he was appalled by the Israeli strike on a residential apartment in the densely populated Rafah in Gaza, which resulted in more children being killed, he said, and went on to say that we must stop this fighting immediately and bring an end to the conflict. That comes as he starts his trip today in Bahrain and continues on to the UAE. The Minister for the Middle East is starting with a visit to the Naval Support Facility in Bahrain, where the UK has supported operations against what the Foreign Office referred to as illegal and dangerous Iran-backed Houthi attacks against international shipping. And during the visit, he's expected to meet with his counterparts to discuss the situation in Israel and the Gaza Strip. So that tweet, of course, coming at the start of those discussions. And he'll go on also to discuss wider regional security and the Red Sea issue in particular. So it's interesting that this has been the first thing we've heard from him out of that trip. Otherwise, it's a pretty routine seeming trip, maybe one that wouldn't necessarily have got a lot of coverage domestically.
And the UK was very much wavering over its support for Israel after the strike on the World Kitchen convoy a couple of weeks back. We had Lord Cameron here in Israel just a week ago, trying to get Israel to limit its response to Iran. Would you say that going forward, support is solid for Israel?
It's very hard to know, and so much can vary depending on the actual facts on the ground. So that tweet today is one example. But I think often we're dealing with the fact that what the Foreign Office, the Foreign Minister, ministers like Ahmad have to say publicly and what they're discussing behind the scenes quietly may not always be so closely aligned. So I think the concentration in what the Foreign Office has put out about this trip on international shipping, in particular on the Houthis, is telling, because it shows that despite whatever Britain might feel it has to say, despite what the government might feel it has to say in relation to what's going on in Gaza, because of domestic concerns here and people who don't like to see on the news the images coming out of Gaza, there are still security concerns which are important for the whole world. Britain is playing a part in those attempts to thwart the Houthis. Indeed, Britain played a part in thwarting the Iranian attacks just over a week ago on Israel. And so there's often a bit of doublespeak going on. But of course, that's dangerous because it changes public opinion, and public opinion in turn changes British policy. And Britain is constantly being pushed and pulled in both directions. So far, Britain is continuing its support of Israel in the war, hasn't tried to stop arms sales, hasn't tried to do anything like that. But anything can change. And it does seem that Israel doesn't have the staunchest of friends, perhaps a reluctant friend, at least publicly.